Why, hello, good morning, and welcome to Bill Ricardi's weekly Patreon update. I, of course, am Bill Ricardi, a creator and purveyor of fantasy novels. What has happened this week? We're going to talk about progress, significant progress, on the Blackstaff Siblings Book 2. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the orphan projects that we're trying to find a home for, and what our progress is on finding publishers, and why we're looking at publishers instead of self-publishing. Finally, we're going to talk about Mind of a Witness, the fan-exclusive short story that turned into a novella that might technically be a novel. And what is going on with that, and what it will happen to that particular story over the course of the next 2 weeks. But let's start with the Blackstaff Siblings. So, Book 2 is going quite well now. We have powered past one of the more difficult, non-combat-y, but action-y scenes, which is a series of puzzles. And that's something that the Hobbit brought to light many years ago. But it's a grand tradition in high fantasy, and it's something I wanted to try to tackle, and I think we've done okay. Not everything was expected. Not everything was cliche or quite falling into place the way that one might think it would. It was not a long sequence, but it was a sequence that really showed how clever the characters could be, and the kind of training that Sarah specifically went through while she was growing up. It harkens back to both her training with the Falconer, as well as something that was mentioned early in the first book in the series about how she can kind of think on her feet. So I was really happy to get a scene in there that really brought all that together, that put all of that on display. And then we are currently back in the second camera point, which is we're back with the other sibling. So we get to talk a little bit more about the interesting challenges and the literal challenge that is about to be faced back at Mount Everfade. For those of you who didn't read the first book, this is slightly spoilery, but we've got a separation between the brother and the sister, of course. And Granite is currently, in a situation where he has to work with some captors in order to find some mutual level of success, and not threaten an oath that he made. So Granite, in essence, is about to face an unexpected challenge, quite literally an unexpected challenge, and we're going to see how he deals with that. There's social aspects to it, but there's a most definite combat aspect to it as well. So we get to see how clever he is on his feet in a very different way. So there you go. That is where we are with Blackstaff Siblings. Next on the list is orphan projects. Orphan projects include things like My Foxy Boyfriend. This is something that I'm now actively going to try to find a publisher for, but not in the original context. In the original context, I was trying to market it as a romance book. And although there are romance elements in it, there are romance elements in lots of different kinds of books, including fantasy books. This is now being marketed as a mythic fantasy. So mythic fantasy then is the likes of anything from Studio Ghibli would probably be considered a mythic fantasy. Anything along the lines of Percy Jackson, if you want to look at the more action side of mythic fantasy, would also be in that category. But it covers a broad range of things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be action oriented or non action oriented. And it can have elements of romance. So I've rebranded it. I haven't changed the story significantly. I've simply rebranded it so that it's getting out there to the right publishers. And it's currently out there in front of a few different publishers now, and we'll see what they say. There open submissions directly without an agent, which is the most important part. So that is where I'm at there. Those orphan projects, such as My Foxy Boyfriend, they're gonna take a long time to turn around. It's not gonna be an instant thing. But as soon as I get news about them, I'm gonna share it with you. What's the final thing? Well, the final thing is what happened to Mind of a Witness? Why is it a novella now? And where is it? Where is it out there? Mind of a Witness turned into a 25K-ish novella. That's what we'll call it for the moment. But with definite novel potential. It is currently out there with the fans. Everyone in the newsletter has it. Everyone on Patreon has it. All the fan-based followings have it. Plus a couple of specific reviewers / previewers that I think might be interested in that work because they've supported me in the past, or they've supported communities that I'm in the past. So more fans, a broader fan distribution. But only a few people. So that's where it's at right now. You'll find basically links to it in your inbox if you look. But what's the future of it? Well, the future of it is going to depend entirely on fan reaction. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'm going to hold off a couple of weeks. I'm going to let people read it and absorb it, and then I'm going to ask for feedback. I'm going to ask via the mailing list, and on Patreon you can just chime in. I need to know, is this concept worth developing, and will people put their money where their mouth is? Because this is one of those things where I already have 2 established series. I've invested a lot of time and effort into them, and I can't afford to take more risks. This is my full-time job, and I have to make sure that everything I write turns some form of profit. And a lot of marketing has gone into that. This year has been entirely about turning, past things into profit. So in order to do that, I have to make sure that, these things will make a profit. So more than likely, if I get a bunch of positive feedback, I'm going to say, okay, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. This is a Kickstarter. If I hit X, I'll finish the novel. If I hit Y, I'll do an audiobook as well. And if I do Z, then we can make a major all markets push on it. I'll get a bunch of fan art together. We'll create some sort of illustrated edition. There's many things that can be done if it hits certain thresholds. But I'm going to say it has to be hitting at least 5,000 quid, or about $7,000, before I consider making it a novel. And those are all pre-sales. Everyone who donates, of course, would get a copy of it. And then I would say it would have to hit twice that much for an audiobook. That will allow me to hire, a voice actor, to do it myself. Because this time, I love Podium and I love them to death, but they're not doing the broad strategy that I'm doing. They're strictly Amazon only, and I can't have that anymore. So any audiobooks that I do in the future, either they're going to have to change their policy on having my audiobooks strictly Amazon only, or I'm going to be doing it myself, getting all the resources myself, and then going with the likes of Findway, or some other broad distribution method that will get it in front of Kobo, in front of Barnes & Noble, etc., right? So I can't do the exclusivity thing anymore, which is why it's going to cost me money personally. So at about 5,000 quid, at about 10,000 quid, I can guarantee an audiobook version of it, and everyone who donates will get a copy of that, because I will have the rights to it. I will have the rights to distribute it, if you know what I mean. As beta readers, I can say, you can take this, understand that, my fan list, who have donated on Patreon, already have a copy of it. So there you go. And then, there will be stretch goals as well, and those stretch goals will involve, massive amounts of art for it, possibly role-playing game supplements for it, all sorts of different things that we can do with stretch goals, and we'll play with that later. So that's it. That's what's going on with Mind of a Witness. That's what's going on with my life. I hope your weather is a little bit better than the weather here in Belfast. It is raining like cats and dogs. Speaking of cats, I've got to go give Loki some treats. So everyone have a great week, and I will catch you soon, and stay safe out there.